Nathan. Well, Erin, today we are going to be meeting with Erin and Heather, Three Kitchens podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you guys on this cold day. We're so, post New Year's.
Yes.
We first wanted to start out with telling us a little bit about yourself and how you guys started your podcast, the Three Kitchens podcast.
Yeah. Erin, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. I'll run with that one. We have to communicate because we can't make eye contact.
Yeah, it's a little harder when you're not together, for sure.
You're blurry.
Yeah.
Right, that too. No, so during we've been friends for a while now. We met through our children, as all moms that become friends do.
Yes.
We were kind of coming out of the coma of motherhood. Our kids had entered into preschool together, and we started hanging out, and we connected over, loving, maybe not loving cooking so much at that point, but loving food. And so as our children grew up and we got locked down during the pandemic, one of the ways that we started connecting with each other was 5 o'clock would come around. We would be like, yeah, we're done homeschooling. We are no longer teacher moms. And we would throw on a Zoom meet with a few other friends, and we would talk about what we're cooking for the day and, oh, what are you doing in your kitchen? And mostly it just left us with food envy. Like, well, I want to make what you're making now. I'm disappointed in my meal for the night.
Yeah.
And so we would chit chat about, if we're staying sane or not, and using that time to reconnect with each other, at least virtually. And then it just kind of evolved into this like, well, if I want to hear about what you're cooking and chat about it, maybe other people want to hear about what we're cooking and chatting about it. So we decided to come up with this podcast that we have zero skill set in. We're not professional audio or sound people. We are not cooks. We are none of the above, but we managed to feed our families 7 days a week. And we thought, maybe other people want to connect and join with us. And it's turned into this wonderful community of people that we've met over time. And we're just going with it and having fun now and making new friends.
Amazing. Like, it's a cool way to build community and just follow your passion, or, you truly just loved it and went with it. I think that is so cool.
Yeah, I love the idea of the fact that you're like, we were not cookers.
Yeah.
Not people who were like strongly talented in audio technology, but you guys were just like, well, why not try this new venture together? Which I constantly am talking about how I wouldn't have done any of this if I didn't have my partner, Erin. Right. So I'm sure your guys' friendship and partnership has had a lot to do with your guys' success in building that.
Yeah, I think it has. And as you just said, without a partner, I don't know how the solo podcasters do it when you don't have someone to split up the work with, because let's face it, this is a hobby and we do it because we love it, and it's a lot of fun, and we get a lot of enjoyment out of it, but it's a lot of work, right? Anybody who creates a podcast themselves will tell you it's like it's so many jobs you didn't even know were jobs.
Yes, that's very true.
Right?
I like it because you guys called it the hardcore hobby. Yeah. And just trying to figure out, I was like, is it hardcore because it's like an extreme sport? Or is it hardcore because we're like, this is no joke? Yeah. It's really
I think it's hardcore just because it's a real, like, you're invested and committed. And you could kind of half-ass it, but I think if you really care about the product you're putting out and the content that you're sharing with people, you're making yourselves quite vulnerable. You can't really hide behind. You can hide behind a screen if you just do audio, but you're talking about, in our case anyways, and yours, personal opinions, personal experience. You're like, I think it's hardcore because you're putting yourself out there. And you don't know maybe what kind of response you're going to get, or whether anyone's even going to listen.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
I think it's also hardcore because it's like we're doing, I don't know, a handful of hobbies. You know,
Really
now
are.
we're
Yeah.
producing pictures, right? Because everyone wants visuals for food. So then you're doing that. Oh, and then you're doing video with it. And now we're producing a website. And now we're learning to edit the audio. And like it just, it's not just one hobby that we're doing. It's, I don't know,
Right.
You really
any
do.
number
Yeah.
of them.
It's a hardcore hobby.
It's a hobby of hobbies. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you found with the doing the podcast and because it sounds like you both have a passion for cooking, has that made it not as fun, or it's not, or do you feel like you still feel the passion for the cooking as much as you always had, or do you feel more pressure now to?
I think it's just as fun, and in some ways it's more fun because we're really pushing ourselves to try new stuff. I mean, the whole point of it, not the whole point, but a big part of it is trying something new that we've never cooked or baked before, and trying something in a way that we can actually share our experience that maybe helps somebody else who has been thinking about trying it but isn't sure about it. And so it keeps it interesting because we're always looking for something new. We don't just make the things that we're good at making.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, if you've ever listened, lots of the time we're like, I have no idea. I don't even know what this means in the recipe. We're floundering around. We're kind of figuring it out. But that's the experience of being a home cook or a home baker with no training.
Right.
Yeah. I would say everyday home cooking is fun. Some of the production cooking or what we're doing for the podcast is a little more stressful because it's like
You gotta get the shot.
I don't know what I'm doing and I'm taking a video of this and this is a little bit intense.
Yeah. And just like, how do I even set that up? Like, we don't know anything about like, we had to kind of learn a little bit about food photography. Not that we've really figured it out. We've kind of dabbled, I'd say. In the video, we have like, I think if we were to truly do a food video, it would be much different than what we're doing. Right?
I love that. But so you guys are kind of speaking to us a little bit because Erin and I, we are not cooks in our household. It's both our husbands that do the cooking. But Erin actually has explored some hobbies. I'm speaking for you on this. Sorry. She's been actually exploring some like baking hobbies specifically. And I think it's like you kind of felt that you might actually have some interest in it.
Definitely.
What I like is the fact that you guys are being pretty open with the fact that you're like, this is really a lot of us just trying new things. Is there a concept or like a think tank that you guys have when you pick a recipe? Is it, I know you mentioned you already kind of go with, it's something different that we haven't tried, but is there a goal when you pick these? Like, how do you communicate what you're wanting to say to your audience in those?
I think part of it is we just follow our stomachs.
Love it.
Like we think about what do I think sounds good, or what have I eaten somewhere, maybe in a restaurant, that I would love to be able to make at home, or I like this, but I think it would be better to like suit my palate or my family's palate better if I do it this way. It's kind of just thinking creatively about what we want to actually eat. At the end of the day, we want to enjoy eating whatever it is we're making.
Absolutely. Yes.
So a lot of it is like, what am I craving? Or what have I heard about that sounds good? Or I saw this photo. That's a danger of like food photography. People who are good at it make everything look delicious.
And then there's a higher standard, I'm sure. It's like,
And then,
then you want to make it.
Myself, and I'm like, well, I guess we're doing Taco Bell again tonight because I failed.
We need to follow, get some tips from you guys for sure.
Aw. Well, a lot of, in the podcast space, a lot of cooking shows are produced and hosted by chefs. So you have professional cooks and bakers and pastry chefs. And like, these are people who know exactly what they're doing and they know what they're talking about and they know all the words and all the French terms for techniques and things and whatever.
And how to say them.
Yes, and how to produce it. Like how to take, oh, I hear what you're saying. I'm going to go and make that. Whereas those of us at home are like, I don't know what they're talking about. And I don't know how to do that thing because I'm just making it up as I go at home.
But that's
And so
relatable to all of us, you know.
yeah, so we felt like maybe there's some value in hearing other home cooks who are not experts talking about the experience of it, not just talking about, hey, what would it be like to do, but actually having made it. So the first part of our episode, we tell each other what we want to, well, one of us will tell the other what we want to cook, what we think it will turn out like, how we think we'll approach it. Maybe we'll brainstorm together. Obstacles, substitutions, maybe things like that. And then, and for me, I always ask Erin a lot of questions because she is probably the better cook and definitely the better baker of the two of us. Don't deny it. I see your face. And that's totally fine. I think that works. The dynamic works well. And so then we actually go away and cook, bake, eat, share. And then we come back and we record the second half where we actually talk about how that process went and what we thought of the end product. Yeah. So you're getting the benefit of our experience with it, not just talking about what it might be like.
That is such a cool concept. And you guys, so you both are cooking these separately. Like you don't really ever do it together.
We have done a few where we get into the kitchen together, and that's really the most fun is when we decide to get together and collaborate on something. But we also really love what we call food delivery day because, you know, we never really know when we're going to fit it into our schedule. We've usually got the first half recorded well in advance, and sometimes we're like, oh, I forgot I was going to make this. I need to make this. And so all of a sudden a text will pop up on our phones and say, are you around? I'm dropping off food in 10 minutes. And we get like something, I mean, nobody else cooks for us.
Yeah.
So it's this awesome day where the food gets delivered and then we kind of have made a promise that we don't say anything to each other about the food other than like maybe a couple texts or like wow or like WTF.
Yeah, sure. And then save it for the podcast, right?
And then save it all for when we jump on. And so it's kind of fun. It makes this great little, I don't know, excitement in the week that we get to enjoy with each other. And
and then we sit down to record and find out, what did she really think?
In real time, yes. Well, you know, we like Erin was saying, you guys are very relatable because you're just the, you know, I'll say it in a positively way, the average mom that took a skill that you guys both claimed that you weren't so like stellar in and are trying to, you know, grow in that together and share that journey with your audience, which I think is phenomenal. Were there any surprising skills that you guys found in it that maybe made you kind of feel like gave you that turning point? If maybe you're not just the average cooking mom, that maybe you're kind of really developing yourself into like, I feel like you guys should get some credit here. Like, I feel like you guys are 4 years of podcasters. When do you get to call yourself a chef or a baker? Like, where does that?
No. We would get like blasted by the professionals for that.
Really?
You do not. You do not. If you're just cooking at home, you haven't been to culinary school. You are not a chef.
Oh my God.
No.
Well, then, is there like a term for the moms who are like making a statement? You're just a
home cook.
Chef?
Yeah.
Home cook. Okay.
Home cook. Home baker.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's no shame in it. Like we certainly don't feel badly about it or anything.
No, you shouldn't.
No.
Okay, so what about it? Any skills that kind of surprised you on that made you feel like that you were kind of turning into a less than just a beginner at cooking and more into the home chef?
Well, I think one for Erin, but I don't.
We'll see if that relates to what I say.
Okay. We'll see.
I think I'm better at cooking on the fly now. Whereas like everything had to be planned out before. I needed to have my list of ingredients that matched my shopping list, that everything was like tic-tac-toe for me. And that definitely, I mean, it helped in the beginning when I when you don't really know what you're doing, or like it forces you to be like, okay, today I'm making this, and it's well organized and you don't have to think about it, and there's less of that stress. Whereas now, and this is something I've learned from Heather, is like I just can figure out how to cook what I want to eat based on what's in my fridge. I can pull out
Well, that's
meat and be like, I'm not going to think about this until I walk in the kitchen. And then it's like my time to be creative and just only think about what I'm cooking and really like be in the moment with it.
I love that. Puppy dog.
Oh, it's not a dog, it's my husband, but he's hiding because he's still in his jammies.
Oh,
That's
well,
hysterical.
please thank him for hiding, because sometimes he doesn't, and I've gotten an eyeful before. Okay, I was going to say something similar, is that I've always kind of been on the fly, winging it. I always say I'm like just by the seat of my pants. I've never been good at meal planning. I just own it. I've tried so many times, and it's not me. I don't know. But I think what I've gotten better at is producing something really good on the fly. Like I can always produce something, but more often now I get the response from my family. Like my husband will say, I didn't even know we had these things in the house. Like, how did you just come up with this? So good. Like, it's not just the basics. It's fine to just put together the basics a lot of the time because we just need to eat, right? But when you can actually turn it into something, when you can turn it into something that's like your family goes, wow, this is really good. Not just thanks for dinner, Mom. It's like, wow, that was really yummy. Then you know you've leveled up a little bit.
Yeah, that's such a rewarding feeling, I'm sure. And just like it's just a gift keeps on giving.
Truly.
With your hobby. Just gosh, yeah, that's very inspiring, because I feel like I would love to get to a point where I could just
look in the fridge and be like, this is what we're having today. I look in the fridge now, I'm like, no, this definitely looks empty. We're going out.
It's interesting. You guys have an interesting balance, because it sounds like, Heather, you're more on the fly, and then Erin, you maybe a little more like need the directions, and you kind of have come together and you're more in a similar place now.
I love that.
That's really cool.
The
You guys
yin
both
to the
bring two
yang.
different things to the different things to the table.
I think we have different brains, different background. Erin's background is in science, so it makes sense that she's very logical approach to things, and is a very good baker, because baking is science. If you struggle with baking, it's probably because you struggle staying within the lines. That's me. And my background is in arts, in communications, and so she's thinking in numbers, I'm thinking in words and images. And I think our brains are just functioning completely differently. So that's, I think, how we complement each other as well. That's why you get sourdough bread from one, and then like something kind of thrown together.
Clean the fridge soup.
Yeah, sourdough bread did not work for me. I just, I couldn't do it.
I tried. I couldn't get it.
No.
No.
I just got frustrated. So
Me too.
So something that we talk about a lot on this show is perfectionism. Erin and I are both recovering perfectionists. Are either of you perfectionists? And if so, have you found that you've really honed in on that perfectionism during this time, or have you been able to kind of bring yourself back to a more forgiving state?
I think I was a much bigger perfectionist in my past life. And I think even just becoming a mom, like you have to give up on so many things in order to care for other people. And I think by doing this, I've definitely gotten, I don't want to say loosey goosey, but like I'm way more free about what I'm doing, how my life is running, where I'm going, like all of that stuff. And it's been good to have that influence from Heather to be like, just go with it, just figure it out, just whatever, and she's much more laid back and relaxed, I think.
But when I was thinking about this before we hopped on here because we're talking about hobbies, and I have always had a tendency to not try something that I think I might like because I think I won't be good at it.
Yes.
We talk about
And
that.
that's the perfectionist, right? It's like, well, I don't want to, I don't know, whatever it is. I don't want to, well, no, that's something different. I was going to say pickleball. Everybody's like into pickleball, right? I was going to say, I don't want to play pickleball because I think I'm not very coordinated and I think I'd suck at it. But honestly, the thing is, I'm not competitive. And so people would never want to play with me because I'd be like, you win, go ahead.
Yeah.
That's why I don't do sports.
Same.
But I think what you're talking about being a parent does definitely play into that because you want to encourage your kids to try things.
Definitely.
And tell them it's okay to fail, it's okay not to be good, you can still enjoy it. So I think when you start hearing yourself tell your kids stuff, but you're not applying it to yourself in your own life, it's like there's something wrong here. And I think there was a time when that sort of clicked when I was like, it's okay that I'm also not perfect at whatever I'm doing. Even if it's something that no one would ever see, I still wanted it to be, I wanted to be good at it. Like, why? Why is that important?
Yeah.
It's not. And I think it also comes as, with age, as you kind of live and learn and figure out that it's not that's not the goal. Perfection is not the goal.
Yeah.
It's so freeing and like, it feels good to really know that.
Absolutely. It's such a great message.
I feel like this is turned into more like enjoying what we're doing rather than whatever we get it. Like
Definitely
often the food at the end is fantastic and we enjoy new recipes and new ways of doing stuff. But it's the process of getting there that is so much fun, and just like that's my time now. When I go to cook, it's like the world turns off and I get to just focus on only that. And
That's fantastic.
yeah, that's what's been better is enjoying more of the process and not worrying so much about the end. Although there is still that like, oh boy, how am I going to take a picture of this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I'm sure people love that because that's normal
I
to
feel like
not
I would
be
like
perfect,
that.
like everything be a success. Yeah.
Yes,
You want to see
I
that.
want to see the
Yeah.
fails. I want to see the success. I want to see, something that looks like, the home cook did it because I have a chance at being a home cook, right? If I really sat down and tried,
Yes.
maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
I'll be
That's
listening to more episodes.
Yes.
The Kitchen's podcast to help me get there. But
okay. Good.
yes. No, and you said something so relatable there, Heather, where you mentioned how like even stuff that nobody would see, you would be a perfectionist about. And that really like hit me because I was like, oh my God, like
All the time.
even stuff people I know they wouldn't care about or see, I was heavily holding on to myself. And then, you also mentioned about how you were, preaching to your children what they, should be trying new things and open-minded. And like you said, I wasn't even doing it myself. Like I would, be like, oh, of course you can be creative now. Like keep colors everywhere. But then like for myself, I was like, no, there's no colors to be found. There's no time for creativity. So I feel like that's relatable. I feel like you guys are very relatable. And I just feel like that's something that I'm really glad that we have you guys on the show because I feel like you guys would really resonate with our audience.
Yeah,
I really
definitely.
do.
Definitely. So it sounds like you said that you guys have started like expanding a little bit more, have a website now, and are you branching out more? Do you have future plans for Three Kitchens podcasts or what's in store? Anything? Or flying by the seat of your pants?
Well, we have changed over time for sure. And not that we had some long range plan. It's just sort of, we have an idea and then we're like, how would that go? Let's give it a try. And so, in the beginning, there were three of us. First of all, that's why it was called Three Kitchens.
Trying to figure that out.
I was going to be like the number three. It's
I guess
really
my take on it was it's you two and then the person listening, Yeah.
Oh, you're perfect.
There you go.
There you go. She was helped.
I never even thought of that, but there were three of us. We had a friend who was our third kitchen.
Okay. Yeah.
And then she went back to school and didn't have time for it anymore. And so the past, I don't know, 3 seasons, are we going into?
Boy.
I don't even know. Never mind.
It could be, yeah.
On your
It's
website,
been-
it says 5 seasons. So
I know we are in 5.
okay, yeah. But 3
I think
is
she was with us for 2.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
I think,
Yep.
I think.
Anyway,
Hard to track.
so we adapted to just 2 of us, and then we thought maybe we can invite guests, and now we have, I think, probably half our episodes have a guest.
I love that.
And, you know, in the beginning, we were like, well, in the very beginning, we thought, who's going to want to listen to this?
Yeah.
Like, is anyone going to want to listen? And then when we got going, and then we thought, who would want to be our guest?
Yeah.
Like, would anybody actually want to come on and be our guest?
Yeah.
And now if you look at, like, we've had some amazing, fantastic guests join us. And every single time I'm amazed. I'm like, you really want to, you want to, like every time you pitch it and they say yes, I'm like, oh my God, Erin, did you know? Like they actually want to come on the show.
Fantastic.
Like it's
cool.
it's so, it's validating and like humbling. And we're meeting other podcasters and we're having so much fun and we're making friends and we're just like, whatever comes next, I don't know, but
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
we'll figure it out as we go. See, that's part of not being the perfectionist and not having
Right.
Circling
Like a
back.
Yes.
Circling back.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's just kind of seeing what comes to us
Yeah.
and then being like, okay, well, if that's something that's out there, then let's give that a shot and just kind of working it into what we're trying to, you know, inspire people to get into the kitchen and try something new. So
Yeah. I mean, that is like the epitome of our message is that it doesn't have to be productive. If it brings you joy, then you should do it and just follow your heart and it will hopefully lead to just happiness in your life.
Truly.
And who knows where it'll lead. So you guys are definitely speaking our language.
Yeah.
Love it. Very inspiring.
Do you guys feel like, you know, because as we already kind of alluded to, podcasting is not for the easy-hearted. Do you guys feel that, I mean, this is a big like task and it puts you out of your comfort zone in many, many areas. Do you feel like having established yourselves now, do you feel that it gave you any skill set to try to be a little bit more adventurous in other areas of your life? Do you feel like that skill set has transferred over anywhere else?
I still feel like we don't know what we're doing every time we jump on sometimes. Like
imposter syndrome.
We sit down and we're like, oh boy, okay, so we have to do this like introduction piece and it still feels kind of clunky at the best of times.
I love it. Okay, good. So that feeling doesn't really ever go away is what you're saying.
I don't know.
I think it in some ways has definitely become easier. And then in other ways, it's like, we still struggle sometimes to describe how to do something in the kitchen or like how something should look or feel or taste or like it's difficult to, in some ways it's very difficult to talk about food without being able to eat it or smell it or touch it. Like it's to describe things. We constantly struggle to try to describe stuff. And then we also on our website, we post the majority of our recipes, not all of them. Sometimes we direct people to wherever the recipe came from, if it's a guest, and we like to direct to their blog or whatever. But we have, we don't just copy over a recipe. Because inevitably we've changed it. We've adapted it to what we're doing. We found something that worked better for us, or maybe we couldn't get an ingredient and so we swapped or whatever. And we've had to kind of figure out how to write a recipe. And I don't think we've mastered that at all. I'm sure if you went on our blog, you'd be like, what?
No, I was
what are they talking about?
And I was like, that looks pretty solid.
I mean, to people who have very little knowledge.
Again, I have no knowledge. So I'm looking at you guys as like really high up.
Right.
Well, funny to hear you guys be so humble about it because I mean, I was like, we've got some serious guests today, and okay, like do you know anything about any terminology? No, okay,
got it.
So gonna wing this here and hope they don't drop any kitchen jargon on her.
Oh no.
Nah, we're faking it till we make it here.
I love it. And I feel like, because this is kind of like the new year, right? And we're trying to encourage our audience to have like some new intentions. For those who want maybe exploring cooking as their probably us improving this year. Do you have a couple of like beginners tips that you would probably recommend to those that would really want to get started in getting on with that journey and improving that skill set?
One that I would suggest is to, like, especially for baking, weigh your ingredients as opposed to measuring in like cups or, anytime you can weigh it, you're going to have a better result. And because depending where a recipe is written, sometimes you get the weight, sometimes you get it in like cups. And there's no consistency across the world. So you're just going to find that, you're constantly thinking, oh, how do I measure 6 tablespoons of butter? Like, how do you measure a tablespoon of butter or whatever? And so you just convert it. And I have the Amazon Alexa that sits near my kitchen, and I yell out, Alexa, how many grams is 6 tablespoons of butter or whatever? And then and plus you have less cups and things to wash at the end of the day.
That's good advice. Yeah, good tip.
It's good tip. That'll save on the dishes for sure, which is one of the big deterrents for me in cooking. I'm just not interested in making a mess.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. I think that's a great tip. I would not have considered that. And did you do any weighing whenever you tried to do like your sourdough?
Well, the sourdough bread you have to, but it was just so messy and so many steps, and you had to wait so long in between. I didn't have the patience for it.
Yeah, it was like having another toddler for her. And I tried this whole campaign to get someone to adopt it because she was like, I'm just going to die. Like,
Starter.
Oh, I feel like there's a business in there somewhere. This like sourdough sitter.
Oh, yeah. There's
Like maybe
in the refrigerator.
Both. I've had 2, and it was a family member in our house.
Yeah.
Like my children referred to it as a person. It had names. The second one was the second but both of them I haven't been able to keep up with.
Yeah.
And so both I'm like, I just don't have time in my life for this. That's
I felt
okay.
Yeah.
I can let it die. I've started it twice.
Yep.
It's okay.
It is okay.
That's right.
That's right.
It is
It's okay.
when it comes to hobbies or anything. It's okay to let it go if you don't like it.
Truly. And I really think
Yes.
that's something that we want people to know is it's like if you try to start cooking and it's just not your bag, that's all right. Step back, try a new one. There's so many hobbies out there
For sure.
that you'll find one. Just move on to the next one.
That's right.
Another good starting point that we talked about with a guest a few months ago who was intimidated by cooking. She said she was scared of cooking.
Yeah, I would say.
Baking she felt okay with, but cooking kind of made her nervous, which is usually the opposite. But you can try meal kits, right? Like everybody's heard of like the HelloFresh and the whatever, I don't know, whatever they're all called. And because it comes to you, you choose your recipe, it comes to you with very detailed instructions that have photos and all the ingredients. You don't need to worry you don't have something. And then as you get confident, and if you liked it, hang on to that recipe card that came with it. And then the next time you've got it all itemized, go out and shop and recreate it yourself. Because now you know how.
That's literally a starter kit for cooking. I love that. That's a great idea. I never really considered that.
I didn't either.
Because there are always those little ingredients that you don't necessarily want to buy the big container of because you don't know if you're gonna ever use it again. So
again, the food that I can't pronounce, and I'm like, I got nothing. Like I don't even know what shape it is. What am I looking for? Is there a color? Give me something.
That's where Google's great.
Yes,
and I mean,
die by Google right now.
That's so true.
And I'm always like something subs. I'm always Googling a sub. Like, I don't have this. What can I do to sub it?
Oh, great idea. I didn't even think about subbing.
Yeah, there's like always I will. So many options.
That's good to know.
I can't remember. I was just recently making something, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not going out to the store again because over the holidays,
Yeah.
Oh my
like
gosh.
to
Yeah.
clean my kitchen in the grocery store,
Yeah.
you don't really find me anywhere else.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like done with shopping. I was like, I'm not going to the grocery store again. If I don't have something, I'm subbing it. And of course, I was like, oh God, I don't have this. Okay, what can I sub? And I just look at it and go down the list. And eventually you find something that's like
Or you
workable.
with time and confidence, you learn not only the subs, but what things you can just do without. Like
Yeah.
when you read the recipe, when you've got a bit of experience and you're feeling kind of like, I know a bit what I'm doing, you can read it and go, okay, I know this will still be good without that thing. And then you also know the things that are essential.
Yeah.
Like it will turn out terribly if I leave out that, but if I leave out that, it's still going to be okay. And I
Yeah.
think we'll still like it.
I
So
get it.
it just comes with like practice and
I think
playing
the
around.
cooking side of things is tougher. And that's where I connected with our guest that came on because it's so often written to taste or how you like, or, and if you haven't cooked it before, you don't really know. So
It takes, yeah.
I feel like there's a lot in cooking that just requires more attention. And I think if you're looking for something to, I think it can really help and go along with just being mindful and being focused and being like in the moment and present with what you're doing. And like one thing that we've learned with so many recipes, but especially when we're cooking for the podcast, is we have to be ready.
Yeah.
So prepping all of your stuff beforehand, before it goes in the pot, before you have to, because then that way, like you can sit there and be like, okay, I'm really focusing on caramelizing these onions. And if it takes 40
you're not trying to
minutes,
do something else. Yeah.
I'm just focusing on it rather than being like, okay, while these onions cook in the pan, I'm also going to prepare 6 other things. Like, no. That's where
Right.
I always end up way behind and being like, oh my God, my onions are burnt and like we need to start again at 0.
Yeah.
So having all those little things prepped and ready to go, it takes more dishes for sure, but it is really helpful so that you can focus on those things that you're maybe less sure about. Like I cooked shrimp for the first time ever because as landlocked prairie people, we do not cook shrimp.
Yeah.
I was hovering over that pan being like, when are you opaque? And then now next time I do it again, I will feel more comfortable with it because I learned that, oh, you can actually like cook and taste at the same time and be like, oh, are you cooked yet? Like,
Right.
hello. Right. Taste as you go. Like all these little things that even still we need those reminders to be like, oh yeah, I have to like pay attention really close to what's going on.
It's such a great tip.
It
Being
is.
present, I mean, really translates into really almost anything.
Yeah.
Like
And just like simplifying it, being present and not taking yourself too seriously. I mean, you guys just seem so relaxed about it. It's very inspiring.
It
So
is.
I love that.
Yeah. I feel like I'm gonna have to try out some Three Kitchens podcast recipes.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you guys being on today. We would like to give you just a minute to like tell us, our listeners, where they can find you guys and connect with you.
We have
Go,
a
Heather.
website, threekitchenspodcast.com. And from there, you can find, we have all of our episodes on there, the recipes. You can even, from the recipe page, you can click listen while you cook and you can listen to us talk about it while you're making. That might be a bit distracting. If we're talking about being in the moment and focusing, that might be distracting now that I think about it.
No, I love that. That's a cool concept.
And we're on, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads. I think that's it. Is that
YouTube.
enough?
Yeah. Yes.
My
That's
goodness.
Oh,
it.
YouTube.
Yes.
And you can listen on YouTube and all the episodes are there as well. Yeah. Is that it, Erin? Have I missed anything?
And any podcast player.
Yeah.
Any podcast player. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, ladies, it's been amazing
Yeah,
having you on the
really
show
has.
today. I feel like you guys, like I said several times, I think, you guys are very relatable. And I really feel like your message will resonate with our audience. And
Definitely.
we're so appreciative that you joined us today.
Yes.
Well, thank you for having us. And thanks for encouraging everybody to find a hobby or try a hobby because cooking and baking can sometimes feel like a chore.
Yes.
It is a chore if you're feeding your family, but it can also be a really fun hobby to just get enjoyment out of. So we appreciate the time to talk about it, and thanks for having us.
Of course.
Thank you.
Well, you guys